I'm Jill from Exeter Sling Library, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about newborns and their heads. Now, obviously, this is my demo baby here. He's not real, so he doesn't have a real head. But that said, he's one of my favourites for demoing with because, as you can see, he is quite floppy-headed. So he is a lot like your real newborn baby who does have low muscle tone and a floppy head. Now, you might well have been impressed by your newborn's muscle tone because they don't have none, you know, and so when you meet them, quite often they manage to lift up their head and they'll look at you and they'll tip their head back, and they, you know, they do have some ability to move their head, you know, and sometimes when you're not sure what to expect, you're quite impressed by how strong they are, and that only increases as they get older, you know. But at the same time, especially when they're tired, you know, and even when they're not, they'll lift up their head and then suddenly they'll go whoop, you know, it'll fall back, you know, and we're always really scared, and we want to make sure that they're safe. And so as a sling librarian, one of the things that I get asked a lot is about head support. You know, does this sling have head support, and what can I do to support my baby's head? And I basically want to make a video to reassure you a little bit about head support, to give you a few tips for it, and, you know, to kind of help, because we do have some carriers that have, you know, great big bits of padding to give you head support, but on their own they don't necessarily make that much difference. They can be useful, especially if your baby's awake. You know, if you've got a baby who's awake and they're looking around, or maybe they're telling you they're hungry and they're nodding their head and, you know, wobbling it a bit here and there, it can be really reassuring to have something behind the head that will give them some support. But that said, we also have other carriers like, say, a stretchy wrap. It doesn't have a big padded head support. And I do give people a tip when they're using a stretchy wrap. They can roll up a muslin and put it in the top of the sling to give them some extra head support. But I would say that is primarily for when your baby is awake and they are making use of those muscles that aren't quite, you know, fully formed yet. When you've got a sleeping baby, I don't think you need extra head support. I don't think you need any big piece of padding or anything to hold their head in place, because what we should have is a carrier that is supporting a position so that your baby is able to rest against you nice and safe without anything extra to hold their head. So, how do we do that? One of the tips I give people in the library is that, in theory, and I am not saying do this, do not do this, but in theory, you could hold your newborn baby on the palm of your hand like this, and their spine, which in a real newborn baby will have more of a curve than my demo doll, but their spine will support their head, and it is held there. Now, if we tip them, clunk, head goes back. And if we tip them the other way, clunk, that chin goes down on the chest. And we want to avoid both those things happening, particularly the chin going down on the chest, because that's a risk for positional asphyxia. Your baby is not going to breathe so well if their chin is on their chest, so we want to avoid that when we've got a baby in a sling. How do we do this? Well, you know, your baby's neck is part of their spine. So you've got this nice curved spine which is supporting their head. So if we want to move their head, we want to move their spine. And if we want to move their spine, we're going to look at moving their hips and adjusting their hips. And what I show people is a position where you'll put your thumbs in their groin, fingers splayed out on their bottom, and then you can tip their pelvis. And by tipping their pelvis, we're moving that spine, and by moving that spine, we're moving that head. Now, I'm doing big exaggerated movements here. And what we're actually looking for is something quite subtle, because you're looking for them to be in the middle. If you imagine you were holding a big glass of water or a bucket and it was full, if you tip it, it spills. And if you tip it, it spills. So we're looking for that central point where our baby is resting against us. If they're facing forward, you might want to put their hands up in front of their face, but they do have flat little noses so they can breathe. You know, so if they like to smoosh into you, don't worry too much. They also might like to turn their head and rest against you. But what we're looking for is that position to be held. And if you do feel that your baby is tipping back, we'll bring them up a little bit. And if you feel they're slumping forward with their chin on their chest, we'll bring them back a little bit. And we're looking for that happy medium. It does take a little bit of practice, and some babies do like to fidget. And so you might find that your baby then changes position and you have to adjust them again. But with a little bit of practice, you should be able to find a nice position where that chin is not on that chest and you don't need anything extra to support their head. As I say, if you've got an awake baby who is busy nodding and looking and turning around and going, "Oh, lights," and you know, all those things that newborns start to become aware of as they go through the first trimester and get a little bit older. You know, you may want to use something. And as I say, many slings have a hood that you can roll up for head support, or they have a padded piece, or in the case of something like a wrap, you can roll up a muslin. So there are lots of options, but don't feel that you need your baby's head held in that position, because if you get it right at the hips, then that spine is going to do the job, and all the time those muscles are building up and getting stronger. I hope this has been helpful and reassuring, and I'm going to say goodbye now.